something I find very peculiar about the super fund industry is how few super funds actually disclose what they're invested into, how much they've invested into different things, what they're valued at, and which fund managers they're picking. It seems strange because in other areas of our life, and using groceries as an example, there are laws about disclosing the ingredients of what we're eating. And this is important from a food safety perspective and a health perspective. I think equally when it comes to knowing where our money is invested, there should be laws to force super funds to actually tell people what they're invested into and help people understand how those things are valued. And this has really struck me recently because there's news articles coming out quite frequently these days about big super funds, and I'm talking the biggest $100 billion funds in Australia, announcing huge write-downs of assets, writing down property assets by 10 or 15% that has billions of dollars of impact, or writing down credit investments by $1 billion here or there. These are often investments that the underlying investors and members of those funds didn't even know about in the first place, and they're getting written down by billions of dollars at a single hit, impacting the unit prices and all sorts of other aspects of people's retirement. Now, the common argument I hear from super funds on this is we don't want to disclose this information because it could put us at a commercial disadvantage when it comes to trying to sell or buy these assets. But to me, this argument doesn't make any sense. Just because people know the value of an asset that you've bought or what assets you own on your book doesn't impact what people will pay for that asset in a takeover. And the listed market is a great example. There are hundreds of companies, thousands of companies in fact, listed on public markets that trade every day that still get taken over, and taken over at a 20 or 30 or 50% premium because the buyer sees value in that asset that other people don't see. And that's not because that information isn't published on a daily basis. It is published on a daily basis. In my view, everyone in Australia should have full transparency around what their super fund is invested into. That means the super fund should have to publish the assets they're invested into, how each of those assets is valued and what they're currently valued at, and also which fund managers they've chosen and the performance of those fund managers. And I think these together would add a whole lot more accountability for super funds, but also force super funds to be a lot more careful in how they're investing. Because at the moment, what I'm seeing is a lot of decisions being made to make active investments in different underlying fund managers and assets that super funds ultimately aren't accountable for. And if a big $100 billion super fund underperforms the market by 1% or 2%, which a lot have over the last couple of years due to some of these unlisted asset investments, there doesn't seem to be a lot of accountability and a lot of understanding of what's driven that underperformance. And so something I believe very strongly is that everyone should have full knowledge of what their super fund is invested into. I'd love to see laws come about that really force this to be the case. I think it would be in the public interest and really benefit Australian consumers and super fund members immensely.